So thank you for coming along. Hopefully you'll get something out of today's workshop and not be afraid of Fiji. I will say that I'm going to say Fiji and ImageJ interchangeably. They're more or less the same thing. Fiji just has extra stuff added to it, but it uses the ImageJ engine and that underneath. So I'll start with acknowledging the traditional owners and their custodianships of the land of which we meet. We pay our respects to ancestors and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country, and we recognise their valuable contributions to Australian and global society. So the plan for the day is to start off with a couple of slides on background of Fiji, and then kind of work our way through from opening images, playing with them to make them look good, doing some basic things that you're going to kind of change the image shape or outputs, how you get ready to publish with things like scale bars, and then working up to analysis pipelines. So a quick tour of Fiji. So as I said, Fiji stands for Fiji is just ImageJ, and ImageJ stands for imaging in Java. So that's where the names come from. Why would you want to use it? Well, you're all here, so you're obviously interested, but it's open source, which means it's free. That's really good for the university. And it's obviously written in Java, so it's pretty fast. It was originally developed and managed by the NIH, but now it's on its own. And there is actually some papers that you should actually cite if you're using Fiji, because like everyone, they need citations to get grants to keep it alive. So I know a lot of people traditionally don't put that in as a reference in their papers. It's got a really large community of developers who are continuing to write plugins, macros, and develop it further. I'm on some of the developer email lists, and someone will report a bug, and within 24 hours, it's fixed on the daily build. So it is definitely still very actively being developed and looked after. And it's got lots of functions to do lots of things automatically really fast. Fiji is advertised as being batteries included ImageJ because it comes with things like bioformats and a bunch of other plugins to open stuff. And you can obviously get it from the fiji.sc website. If you're not familiar with it, this is the kind of main window that you will see. This has lots of little shortcuts, and all the menus will appear either in the window, or if you're Mac, it goes up the top. And it can tell you things like the status bar, so information about the version. If it's loading something, there's a little loading bar. There's all these little things like making selections, pretty standard for any kind of image processing, whether you want square shapes, round shapes, etc. Some of them have these little arrows. So like the line tool, you can right click on it and change it to be a segmented line or a freehand draw line, for example. And you can also double click on some of them and change like the thickness of the line or some extra options. Then there's things like magnifiers, the panning tool, eyedroppers, some shortcuts to things like the stack menu and the lookup tables. When you create these selections, it's pretty obvious, right? They're squares, circles, all these shapes. You can freehand things. So then over here, I've got the angle, and never really had to use the angle, but it's there. You can use it. Bit of a hint, you can hold down Shift and you can draw shapes over one another to add them together. One that I learned way too late in my experience with Fiji is if you hit Control-Shift-E, it will restore your selection. So if you've hand traced a really intricate thing and then accidentally lose it, that will bring it back. So that's really useful. There's also these smart selection tools. So these are like a counting tool. So if you just wanted to click on the image and mark off points, it'll just keep tally for you. Then there's the magic wand, which works as a thresholding tool. So you can click on an area and you can adjust the threshold parameter of a tolerance by double clicking on that button. And you can quickly select things like all the nuclei and all the blue stuff if you need to. It's quite useful. When you open an image, you have what's called the image window, which is a free floating window. You can have multiple images open, so you can have multiple windows here. But this is really nice because it shows you things like how many channels there are, how many Z slices, time. You can see this image here has no scale because it just says that it's 512 by 512 pixels. It doesn't say that it's 58 point whatever microns or whatever it would be. And it also tells you how much memory it's using. As we move into the age of big data, it's useful to know what Fiji's actually using. And then down the bottom of the window, you have these sliders for whatever kind of end dimension that you have. So whether you've got channels, Z slices, time points, positions, whatever's loaded in, it can deal with them and you can quickly scroll through time. One kind of important thing with Fiji is that the copy in Fiji doesn't really work outside of Fiji. So if you wanted to draw a region and then paste that into PowerPoint, you have to use copy to system. So if you just do copy and paste, it'll work within Fiji, but if you want to pull it out to somewhere else, you've got to use that copy to system.